Good evening all, I'm Stefan Kim, a reporter from WABC Channel 7 Eyewitness News. I'm very pleased to be with you here at Hamilton-Madison House's June Lee Virtual Chinatown Banquet of 2021. We find ourselves together in a challenging moment as we contend with the ongoing effects of COVID-19, a disturbing wave of anti-Asian episodes and poverty, food insecurity, and mental health issues in Chinatown, the Lower East Side, and other communities around the city. Amidst this turmoil, we must be grateful for the anchors that hold us up, and this evening, I'm pleased to help illuminate the stellar efforts of an organization that has been doing so for more than a century and as relevant as ever today. I'm referring, of course, to Hamilton-Madison House, or HMH as we call it. Our aim this evening is to inform, entertain, and generate energy so we may all come together to build a healthier Chinatown and New York City over the next months and years, and indeed a more equitable and harmonious society. Now, to launch the event in the appropriate spirit, I'm pleased to introduce a lion dance by the Chinatown Community Young Lions, a group of youth that regularly performs to rave reviews in settings throughout Chinatown and beyond. Enjoy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tony Giorgio. I am the board president of Hamilton-Madison House. It has truly been my honor and pleasure to serve on the board for well over 20 years. In looking back over that time, I can't remember a time when I was more proud and inspired by our organization. Immediately following the outbreak of COVID-19, Hamilton-Madison House shifted the manner in which we provide our services to a more remote operation, including the delivery of meals and mental health services to many of those in need. It was amazing to see the intensity, the speed, and dedication as we shifted into a higher gear to serve our community. I would like to take a moment to thank my board, our Executive Director, Isabel Ching, and her executive staff, our entire staff, our volunteers, partners, and donors, and especially all of you for joining us this evening. I hope you will learn more about HMH tonight, including sharing with us in honoring the woman this event memorializes, June Lee. June was a most gracious woman, inspirational to us all, and served as a role model for many years. I hope you can find it in your hearts to be generous tonight in the memory of June and in support of the work we do here at Hamilton-Madison House. And I hope that I will all see you next year live in person at next year's event. Thank you and enjoy the evening.
Joining me now is a woman who needs no introduction. She's the executive director of the Hamilton-Madison Houses. Please welcome Isabel Ching. Nice to have you with us. For those of you who don't know what the organization does, give us your best pickup line. What's the mission statement?
Well, I think the best mission statement is that we never turn away. Anyone who comes through our doors, we want to make sure that we're either providing them some kind of services, information. So never turn away is our what I would say simply about Hamilton-Madison House.
You've done so much on the ground for many, many years, but particularly this past year has been quite a struggle for everyone. But talk to me about how the organization has pivoted and served the community in a year like the one we just had.
Yeah, this has been quite a year, like you said, Stefan. We've switched from in-person to now virtual. So we've actually saw that there was a great need. In the beginning, our seniors, we used to give 100,000 meals in person in congregate senior centers. Then when COVID hit, we had to start thinking about how we're going to feed our seniors. These are people who were alone, living alone, didn't have families, caregivers, and probably didn't know how to even get on the phone, didn't know how to connect to services. So we were able to find, organizations that we just honored this evening who actually reached out to us, who's going to be providing hot meals that are culturally and ethnically appropriate for our seniors.
Food insecurity, you talked about that. Seniors living alone, you can't help but think about mental health. This organization is a full-service one, from food insecurity to mental health services to serving the elderly, to even getting vaccinations. So much that Hamilton-Madison Houses does. Talk to me about all of these services that were provided throughout this past year.
So as I just mentioned, we were doing meals. We've served over 1,000 hot meals to our seniors. We've given hundreds of PPEs, food pantry, also fresh vegetables, which we also saw as a gap in meals that would help be nutritious for our seniors. We've also pivoted where our mental health clinic has been providing virtual telehealth. And we were open also some days because some of our clients would have to come in for mental health services. It really hits home for me because, all my life I've been really interested in just about grappling about race relations in this country, in America. I grew up here. Seeing the video of that elderly senior in San Francisco and her speaking my dialect really hit home for me. And then seeing the other incident in New York City of a young man on a train. So, I think that one of the things that we want to do is to teach people how to report. If you see something, say something, and you need to be actively reporting these crimes because otherwise, New York City is not going to take this seriously. So one of our jobs is also to train people to know how to make these, to report safely.
I'm not even going to ask you how the community is reacting to it because it's an obvious, palpable fear, but I like what you just touched on, sort of this actionable item, what's next. We've been trying to send this message that reporting these crimes to police, that
Yes.
speaking about these attacks publicly, whether it's to the media or to your friends or in social media, that the awareness is such an important part of combating this. Particularly with the community whom you serve, that can be older, I guess, in some cases, not all. Is that message resonating, the importance of speaking out? Because that's not something the community has been accustomed to in previous years.
Yeah, no, it isn't. It isn't something that we're accustomed in this community. And I think that as we start to report more of these things, maybe there'll be more funding. There'll be, because this is also elevated mental health services. We've had an increase of clients having to come out because they're having grown anxiety. Even for myself, I feel first time in my life that I'm fearful of walking in the streets of New York City.
Yep. There is, hopefully, the end is near. We have an election cycle locally here in the city with a lot of turnover. Starting from the top, there's a mayor's race coming up very, very soon. What is your message to each and every one of these candidates and to the local leaders about what the community needs moving forward?
Well, the next new mayor will have to help and recover New York. We have to recover from COVID. The bottom line, we have to provide more services. We have to consider what's going on in the crime, homelessness that's going on, food insecurity. What do we do with mental health? Again, I have to stress that because we run one of the largest Pan-Asian mental health clinics in New York City, and we need to understand that communities like us need to be well-funded, and we have been disproportionately underfunded. And with the growing uptick of anti-Asian or hate crimes, there has to be funding to support these kinds of services.
Let me follow up with you on that, with mental health, because so much of what we're seeing, and it's not just exclusive to the issues facing the Asian American community, but across the city, whether it's homelessness, whether it's the violent attacks, one of the sort of connections when you conflate all of it is mental health at the root of it. And quite frankly, it's a complicated issue that the city, even under good times, struggled to really address in a profound way. I guess we're at a point, though, where city leaders are debating within the city what agency is the proper agency to deal and address mental health. It sounds like you're saying that there are nonprofit groups like Hamilton-Madison Houses that are pretty prepared to combat this, but it just sort of needs the city resources and funding to assist that. Is that fair to say? And tell me how the organization is equipped to really get in there, hit the ground running.
Well, you know what? From my experience, I've been through Hurricane Sandy, I've been through 9/11, and now the pandemic. Community-based organizations has always been very critical to making those connections with government and community residents. So I'm going to start first with vaccines. You know, there was this very slow rollout, but when they put it in the communities, we were able to call everyone personally to make sure that they understood how to register, how to come and provide transportation or escort so they can get vaccinated. That was the one thing. So community-based organizations really had a big connection, making those connections. So mental health, we've been doing this for years. I mean, we've been running this clinic since the 1970s. We have the history, we have the staff, we have the language to provide that kind of service. That's so important. So that connection to community-based organizations is where you're going to provide those, will help in terms of accessing resources to our to the residents.
I would also argue mental health is another one of these areas within the community that's been sort of stigmatized, and it's, again, the community is not really accustomed to speaking about these struggles publicly, and so communities like yours being connected to the people who need this help, there's a certain level of trust that doesn't really exist when you go through layers of bureaucracy. So again, thank you for everything that you do and what the organization does, and thank you for introducing, I think, so many people who maybe for the first time learning what this organization is all about. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you again. Thank you.
We were actually contacted by the governor's office to be a pop-up vaccination site, and we jumped to that opportunity because we really want to get this vaccination to our communities, particularly here at Alfred E. Smith Houses.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great event going on. You know, people people that wouldn't necessarily have access to the vaccine, you know, the most vulnerable populations and maybe those that don't speak the language. It's important that everybody gets vaccinated, and here they've been so welcomed with open arms, and it's been accommodating. We've had translators, and it's just been a very smooth process.
咁方便，所以咧我就唔好錯過嗰個機會。
And I'm thankful for the people that set this up.
Yes,
Because you have a lot of senior citizens that don't have online.
that's right.
And if they do, they don't know how to do it. You come over here, you get it done 1, 2, 3.
Hi, my name is Jan Lee. I'm a board member of Hamilton-Madison House. Right now, I'd like to introduce our honorees for this year's June Lee Chinatown Banquet 2021. For Think Chinatown, Lillian Cho. For the WOW Project, Mei Lum. For Heart of Dinner, Moonlin Tsai and Yin Chang. For UA3, Don Hong. And from Welcome to Chinatown, Jennifer Tam and Victoria Lee.
Thank you to Hamilton-Madison House for recognizing Think Chinatown. All of us, board, staff, and our many volunteers, we really do appreciate being acknowledged for our efforts to reinvigorate our community with, you know, year-round cultural arts and cultural programming, storytelling, and neighborhood engagement. There's really nothing more rewarding than being applauded by our peers, as you know, especially those like Hamilton-Madison House, who work as tirelessly, as creatively, and compassionately as we do to make our communities stronger and better. Think Chinatown, for us as a young organization, we're really proud to be partnering with a pioneering institution like HMH. So I hope that we'll all continue to work together to imagine and build the Chinatown that we want to see today and for the future. On behalf of Think Chinatown, I happily accept this award and thank the Hamilton-Madison House for shining the light on our work.
The WOW Project is so honored to be receiving this recognition from such a neighborhood institution and organization that has been doing so much meaningful work over the last century. And we are looking forward to continuing to build our relationship and partnership in the near future with Hamilton-Madison House and continuing to support the amazing work that you all do in the Lower East Side and Chinatown's diverse communities. Thank you so much again.
Heart of Dinner has been servicing the elderly in our community by providing culturally thoughtful hot lunches packed with farm fresh produce, pantry essentials, all packaged in a brown paper bag that's been beautifully illustrated by members of our community. And then on top of that, with a handwritten note that's been sent over from all over the world.
We are deeply honored to be receiving an award of recognition by Hamilton-Madison House. To receive this incredibly tremendous honor from a social services organization that's taken care of our entire community for over 100 years is really meaningful to us. And we are so excited to continue partnering as we look towards an exciting future together.
Thank you, Isabel. On behalf of UA3 and all board members, Chilo, Kinwa, and Ori, and all the volunteers at UA3, I want to thank you for this collaboration with Hamilton-Madison House. And it was back in April 2020, at the very beginning of the pandemic, when there was no food subsidies from the government, where we were bringing from private donations, fresh fruits and vegetables down to Mott Street. And that's where your board members like Jan Lee picked up the food, organized teams of people, and brought it up to the tenement buildings. And that's where we kept Chinatown alive. I just can't thank you enough. Now we're up to $6 million worth of food being distributed everywhere throughout the city, from Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, and Staten Island. So we will continue this collaboration, and it's been a great teamwork effort. Thank you.
We're so honored to receive this recognition from the Hamilton-Madison House. As two residents of Chinatown, we have long admired the organization's commitment to serving our community, keeping it safe and resilient for more than 100 years. To receive this honor from such a well-respected organization, it means so much to us, so thank you.
Welcome to Chinatown was founded with a mission to support Chinatown small businesses who we see as a microcosm of the neighborhood. Through this, our work has led us to see that through our local businesses, we could also extend that support to Chinatown's larger ecosystem, such as addressing the spike in food insecurity in the last year. Over the past year, we've been able to donate more than 20,000 meals and also provided Chinatown businesses with nearly $250,000 in revenue through our fundraising efforts to ensure the vitality of our neighborhood small businesses. Thank you again to the Hamilton-Madison House for this recognition.
Just came here. Food is love. It's just to show that you really love your community, and what else but to show them with their stomach and get them happy. So I always believe that food is the common denominator where we can bring down our barriers and bring people together.
With the pandemic and food insecurity, and now with these anti-Asian hate crimes, people are angry and frustrated, and they want to protect the community, and helping somebody get a hot, nice meal for dinner keeps them in their home without feeling trapped because they're getting a great restaurant meal. They had steamed flounder, spring rolls, bok choy, and jasmine rice. I'm super jealous.
多謝麥迪臣街社區中心送呢啲飯盒俾我哋。
We had 16 volunteers today. We had outreach through a new friend of ours, Grace Young, who is an acclaimed cookbook author, reached out to us and introduced us to a PR agency who introduced us to restaurants. The first one tonight was from Laut, which has a Michelin-starred chef who was very interested in how they could help the community in this terrible time of anti-Asian hate and how they could help the community. So even though restaurants aren't doing so great, he donated 70 meals for seniors, primarily Asian seniors, in one of our housing units.
We have a heavy hitter lineup for you, 4 individuals from nonprofits working in the community, addressing inequities like food insecurity. We're going to go around the circle now here to introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are and what your organization does.
Hi, my name is Yin Chang. I'm the co-founder of Heart of Dinner. We serve our beloved elderly here in New York throughout Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan with culturally thoughtful meals, including hot lunches and groceries, and each one is paired with handwritten letters of love.
Next.
Hi, I'm Yen Kong, director of Think Chinatown. We are an intergenerational nonprofit here in Manhattan's Chinatown, and we work in arts and storytelling to come together as a community so we can deal with important neighborhood issues.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mei Lam. I'm the founder and director of the WOW Project that uses art and activism to resist the rapid gentrification and displacement happening throughout Manhattan's Chinatown.
Hi, I'm Donald Hong. I'm the father of my 2 kids that founded UA3. We deliver somewhere between 33,000 to 45,000 pounds of food here in Chinatown, and up to 330,000 pounds per week in New York City. We're in Bronx, Brooklyn, Bedford-Stuyvesant, all over New York, and we collaborate with over 130 nonprofits throughout New York City.
So thank you guys all for joining us again, and thank you for everything that you guys do during your daily lives. Let me start over here. It's been a difficult year, to say the least. What does it say about our society that people in Chinatown and elsewhere will lack sufficient food but for the efforts of community-based organizations? And talk to me about some of the most profound moments going through this past year in that space.
First of all, I think it's under really unfortunate circumstances that we have to be in this situation in the first place. Quite frankly, I don't think the government is doing enough, hence why there has been a lot of community efforts standing up. But with this work, it's been very inspiring to see all the people coming together. I didn't really understand the word community until the last year, really. Everyone here doing so much work and showing up for every single person. I do remember there was one really heartwarming story of an elderly. We received on Instagram a photo of this elderly woman, and it was the daughter who messaged us, DM'd us, and showed us her mom with the care package. Handwritten note in Chinese that we love you, we care for you, we're thinking of you. And she said that she's actually a client here at Hamilton-Madison House, and she was so moved and looked forward to it every single week. And it was something that gave her some hope during these times.
Thank you. Same question to you. This past year's been tough.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. This year has been really a year, a story about community and coming together, for sure. Chinatown was built out of exclusion, and we've built parallel infrastructure to support ourselves through this. And, all these mutual aid programs that have sprung up is definitely an example of that. Something that Think Chinatown has done over the course of the last year is build outdoor dining build-outs for restaurants in need in Chinatown. And that meant fundraising, designing, figuring out regulations with DOT, and building, and also creating murals with artists and volunteers for each of these businesses to make sure that our restaurants can survive the pandemic.
Parallel infrastructure, it's a new term. It's both disappointing that it's necessary, but also inspiring that it's been built, I guess, right? Same question to you. Tough year, what's been like?
Yeah, I think for us at the WOW Project, thinking about our work at the intersection of art and activism, it's been tough for us to find our stride and find our purpose in this time when our community needs direct services the most, and want to amplify and uplift all the mutual aid groups and grassroots efforts that have been popping up during this time, like Heart of Dinner, like UA3, like Think Chinatown's Assembly for Chinatown initiative. I think for us, we started something called Love Letters to Chinatown, which asked the public and the community to submit letters to Chinatown as a neighborhood, to their favorite restaurants, to their favorite businesses, and just realizing that Chinatown is so much more than just a physical space and a physical home for people, but it's also spiritually a place of belonging, a place of connection and relationship to cultural identity. And that, I think, brings us to a brighter future of how we can come together to build what that can mean for us beyond this really tough moment.
Before I move on to Don, Love Letters to Chinatown, give me an example of some of the letters, the messages that were received. And it sounds like there could be some really profound moments there.
Yeah, there were some amazing poetry that was submitted, artwork. It ran the gamut from personal letters to owners of businesses, to sharing memories about coming to Chinatown during Sundays with family, just really getting a glimpse at living memories for people that they associate with Chinatown.
Okay, thank you. Don, same question to you. Tough year, what's it been like?
The most vivid memory I have is arriving at a pantry about 5:30 in the morning. Cold, rainy, icy rain hitting the windshields. And what I saw was a shadow of an elderly lady in the pantry. And it was cold, it was windy, and she ran off chasing her hat in the wintry storm. And she eventually came back with a stool. And I didn't realize, this truck came and we all got busy serving food, but I didn't realize that she waited there 5 hours for food. There's real desperation out there. When we went to Sunset Park and set up the trucks landed about 6 o'clock in the morning, and there were already about 500 people there waiting for food. By the time we finished, it was 11 blocks long, and we served over 2,500 people that day. And thank God that we have CBOs, community-based organizations like here, that are stepping up and coming out, because without it, the answer is the government wasn't prepared to meet this disaster. The answer is all these community-based organizations stepped up.
That's interesting. About 4 or 5 years ago, I did a story that sort of exposed the hidden homelessness and hidden poverty in the community. At that time, Asian Americans as an ethnic group had the highest level of poverty of any ethnic group. It was almost 1 in 4. 1 in 4 Asian Americans living under the poverty line. Now, since then, the most recent statistic we have is 2018, and it's come down a little bit. About 21+% of the population lives under the poverty line. Just imagine what that looks like now after 2020. But one of the things I think that we explored in that piece was a lot of culturally we're not really trained to speak publicly about our struggles. I think that's sort of part of it. But sort of segueing off of what she's saying, there's a lot of disconnect here. What would it take, I guess, to move this conversation forward, to get the attention of city and state leaders? I mean, the community gets less than 2% of all the funding when it comes to this space, even though almost more than 1 out of 5 live under the poverty line. It's a huge disconnect here. What would it take to get their attention and what we need to come this way?
Yeah, I definitely want to acknowledge what Yin was mentioning about not having culturally relevant relief available for Chinatown, not only for our small businesses and restaurants, but also for food, right? So your question about what would it take, I think we have to make sure that we have folks speaking out. We're really fortunate now to have so many grassroots efforts and grassroots community leaders really making an effort to share Chinatown's story, to share the fact that we've been a neighborhood struggling since January of 2020, way before any of the ethnic neighborhoods in the city went through the challenges of COVID. Chinatown is a cash economy. We need to make sure that there is relief for us. We can't prove that we're eligible for something like an EIDL loan or a PPP loan because we're moving money in a different way. And also recently, our zip code 10013 not even being recognized as eligible to receive relief for our small businesses was a huge blow to us, and speaks a great amount to how the city sees us as a neighborhood. And just going back to your point about how there is a significant percentage of our Asian American community living in poverty. We are coming up against the model minority myth and the ways in which people see our Chinese American community and our Asian American community. So we have to keep on speaking out about how that is not true, how there is so many issues here in our community. And we need to make sure we're building awareness across the city and across the country.
All of these struggles, whether it's food insecurity or xenophobia, these are struggles that are common across communities of color. With that being said, we can't ignore what's been happening this past few months, and quite frankly, since the start of the pandemic, and quite frankly, since, again, the beginning of Asian Americans' existence in this nation, right? We're seeing this current wave of very unsettling, disturbing, both violent attacks, systemic bias that we've always known existed, but we're finally in this moment, this inflection point where we're talking about this publicly. Easy question starting with you. How is the community holding up? What's the sense that you get? And what does the community need more of to feel safe?
There is definitely a sense of fear. I think there's, specifically speaking for Heart of Dinner, we feel more of an urgency to really try our best and continue making our elderly feel as safe as possible. And when we first started last year, we also saw a similar spike, but not as intense as this year. And the purpose has always been to make sure that our elderly felt comforted and felt at peace and knowing that they are safe at home, not only getting food, but also that people are out there looking out for them. So we continue with that here this year. And what we've started doing a little bit last year, but are really building up towards, is allowing, what you were saying is, building the community efforts and merging of gapping the bridges. We use opportunities for our volunteer drivers to show our elderly that it's more than just our Asian and Asian American community members who are showing up. There are so many people, Black community members, from the Latinx community, even white communities. Everybody wants to raise their hand that we've seen. It's been very uplifting. They've been raising their hands to say, how can I physically put my body out there to show love and care and support for your elderly, because we are devastated to hear this is what's happening. And I want to do more than just money. What can I put my action towards? So it's been very uplifting. We've been creating more opportunities in that way and showing our elderly, look, like the news is terrifying. What's been happening is real and it's scary. But there's also so many good people coming together for community efforts to try and bridge the gap.
I'm so glad you brought that up because so much of the news can be depressing and guilty as charged because that's sort of the nature of the business. And we often try to tell the uplifting and the unifying stories, but quite frankly, we're sort of in the middle of this fight still, and it's hard to get that in there. But that does exist, and I've seen it on the ground, and it's important to point out. So the same question to you. I mean, what do you feel on the ground? What can be done to make people feel safer?
Stories matter. Representation matters. The work we do at Think Chinatown, really gathering stories from within our community of how we belong, how we're here to stay, how we're a part of American history, not Chinese or Asian American history, but how we're a part of American history. Really letting people understand that we're proud of that. And so that goes through celebration, right? That's through art. And the last time we encountered each other, I was in a giant red lantern piece, part of our Think Chinatown Lantern Artist Residency program, right? Because we need to bring joy and celebration into our community. That's a part of a way to fight fear and hate is through arts, music, dance, and giant red lanterns.
I love it. Can always use more lanterns. Outside of being a lantern, what can be done?
Yeah, what I've been seeing, we work a lot with young people and Asian American youth, is that this time has been very traumatic, and seeing impact on mental health and realizing how much folks need peer-to-peer circles. They need to be able to speak openly about what they're going through. I mean, not only the anti-Asian violence that's been having an impact on our mental health, but also the pandemic and being in isolation. So it's so complex and layered. But I think to that end, making sure that we see our community as abundant, that we have ancestral healing practices that go back decades, centuries, that we can tap into that to seek healing for ourselves, whether that mean we're asking traditional Chinese medicinal practitioners to come and teach us acupressure points or herbal remedies that we can make at home and learn from our elders and talk about that. Maybe not explicitly, but we can bond over that and talk about how we're going to care for each other. And I think, to what Yin said, joy, care, healing is what we need to uplift right now, especially in a time when it feels like we're alone and isolated, and we can bond and feel in community in that way.
Looking ahead, are you hopeful, and why?
I am hopeful because of seeing how many people have raised their hands to really want to take action. Obviously, there's so much more work to be done, but knowing that there are so many people who have awoken to awareness and wanting to learn how to take the right step forward to really allow for community building and healing, and I love May you talking about healing, is so important. So that leaves me hopeful. It leaves me hopeful because I'm seeing personally through Heart of Dinner the right steps from the community to reach out in the ways that we didn't even think of before.
Reason for hope?
Definitely hope. We've seen amazing ways of people coming out and seeing when their cultural home was threatened. They just stepped up and, built new ways to support the community. And I think that's just really amazing. And, for organizations that have been in the space doing the work, we really see how this new energy has brought so much care to our neighborhood and our community. And we hope to continue doing our work of celebration, continue to do our work of telling stories, and activating the neighborhood.
Okay. Reason for hope?
Yeah, specific to Chinatown, thinking about all of the tough moments that we've been through, 9/11, Hurricane Sandy, and now COVID. COVID has been the longest and the biggest challenge, and to see all of the community members, the grassroots organizations, the volunteers, the outpouring of love, really show up during this time has been really encouraging. I think for me, I hope that folks know that help and support and care can come in times that are outside of crises, and that this work is long term, and that we need sustained support throughout every year and every decade. It doesn't have to be in moments of tragedy that we need people to show up.
And if it was in place before, we would have better prepared in this moment. That's a great point. Same question to you. Let's end on a high note. Reason for hope.
You know, I do have a lot of hope because I see a lot of collaboration, and certainly we've done it with Hamilton-Madison House and many other programs and organizations here in Lower Manhattan. But I see over 100+ collaborations that we have throughout the city. And it's Black, it's Hispanic, it's Dominican, it's white, it's churches, it's mosques, and it's our Asian community. We're all coming together, and it's putting the love together that brings us together. And I think that is the one shining little gem that's coming out of all of this desperation. We are New York City. We are one of the biggest melting pots in the world. I think that is where we will come and rise up above it all.
So we can't ignore being here in this conversation. Talk to me about how vital Hamilton-Madison House is in this moment and just in general.
Hamilton-Madison House has been here doing the work for over 100 years. They're incredible. And specifically through Heart of Dinner's work, because of limited budgeting, we right now only have space to take on really emergency cases. And I'll never forget Hamilton-Madison House's caregiver program. They reached out to us and they told us about an urgent case of an elderly who only spoke Japanese, and he had no access to food for about 7 days. Oh. And we were able to work together so quickly to get him the meals that he needed. And he's still with us every single week. And I'll tell you, the people behind Hamilton-Madison House, they have so much heart and care. These caregivers on the other line were on the phone with me for hours, making sure that we could reach and access the people who really needed the help. So I, for one, am so grateful on behalf of Heart of Dinner for the work that they do that allow us to reach our elderly. Otherwise, we wouldn't have reached so many.
7 days. God, I can't even comprehend that. How vital is the work?
Yeah, as May was talking about before, this sustained community support and infrastructure that Hamilton-Madison House provides is so important. I think there are a lot of newcomers to this space responding in this time of crises, but having an institution like Hamilton-Madison House in our community constantly is so vital. They provide so many services to our community. One of my favorite Think Chinatown projects, and our first one actually, was in collaboration with Hamilton-Madison House. It was a storytelling project with the seniors at a different Hamilton-Madison House location, where we talked about everyday objects that we find in Chinatown as a way of collective memory and belonging here in Chinatown. And I will never forget that connection that we were able to have through Hamilton-Madison House.
Okay. Same question to you. The vitality of this organization is what to you?
Yeah, I really admire the sustained longevity of Hamilton-Madison's House work. I think that, the Lower East Side and Chinatown, we are a multi-ethnic community, and the fact that Hamilton-Madison House opens their doors to Asian Americans, to Black folks, to Latinx folks, that is the most important thing that they can do, and they're building solidarity across different cultures by doing that and creating a microcosm of what we need to do in our everyday lives, of connecting just on a humane level, of sharing food, sharing in activities together. So I really admire all of the hard work that the Hamilton-Madison House team pours into their everyday.
So true, and echoing sort of the sentiment that you made earlier too, right?
Well, it's not only Hamilton-Madison House, it's the people behind the scenes. And I didn't realize it, but I was, at the very beginning in April, in the very beginning, I was working with Jen Lee, and some of his team people, and we were physically dropping off food. Before any other program was started, we were dropping off food, cars loads of food, right onto Mott Street. And it was Jan Lee's job to distribute it to the entire block, walk it up the stairs, deliver it to the people who needed it most. But those kind of partnerships with Hamilton-Madison House and the people behind the scenes really have made the difference. They've really stepped up, and it's the heart and soul of not just the organization, but the people behind the scenes.
Well, as promised, this was a nuanced, thoughtful, and very meaningful conversation. Each and every one of you are obviously plugged in to the community in different ways, but I think every perspective you brought was super helpful. Hopefully the audience got something out of that. And I'll end with a quote from the actor, Daniel Day Kim, in his congressional testimony. If this is a moment where the community is awakening, well, then let's stay woke. Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you all for joining us. I hope that you've learned something and will continue the fight and the conversation. Thank you. It's now a pleasure to introduce a cooking demonstration hosted by a good friend to HMH and a celebrated chef of Asian cuisine, Grace Young.
I'm in Manhattan's Chinatown, where I come to shop almost every single day. This is a very unique neighborhood. It's the last ethnic neighborhood in Manhattan, south of 96th Street. 98% of the businesses are small businesses, all unique mom and pop, one-of-a-kind shops and restaurants. Food justice is built into the identity of the neighborhood. It's not just Chinese people, but people of all different ethnicities and socioeconomic backgrounds come to Chinatown to shop because the ingredients and food here are economical, high quality, and accessible. The Food Network system here is extremely fragile, and it's so important that we preserve this neighborhood and support all the businesses. So please shop here in Manhattan's Chinatown or wherever your Chinatowns may be. Support your local Asian markets. They need us now more than ever. Hi, I'm Grace Young. I'm known as the Stir Fry Guru. I have an interesting story to tell you about the recipe that I'm about to cook for you. When I was writing my first cookbook, The Wisdom of the Chinese Kitchen, I asked my parents to show me how to cook all my favorite childhood recipes. Then, years and years later, I received a phone call that my mom had had a stroke. I flew to San Francisco, and when I arrived in the hospital, my mom was stable but unable to speak. When I entered her hospital room, it was actually a very painful moment. They had just served her dinner, and I saw her staring at a plate of meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and peas, and she never took a bite. So the next day, I went to our local market and I bought a little chicken, some scallions, ginger, went back to my family home, and I cooked one of the recipes that my parents had taught me all those years ago. I chose a classic Cantonese recipe, Wat Gai Fan, which translates as sandpot chicken and rice. I made half a recipe. When I entered my mom's hospital room, she looked up immediately because she recognized the aroma. And even though she couldn't speak, when I uncovered the pot, she knew exactly what it was because she devoured the entire thing. When I wrote Wisdom of the Chinese Kitchen, I never dreamed that someday I would cook one of my mom's recipes for her to comfort her. The other reason I love this recipe so much is we're living in such challenging times right now, and the genius of this recipe by the clever Cantonese cook to make a feast out of very little is so inspiring. So let's begin, and let me show you how to cook the recipe my mother and father taught me so many years ago. So for this recipe, you'll need dried shiitake mushrooms like this. So I've already soaked them in 3/4 of a cup of cold water, and now I'm going to squeeze out all the excess water. And you want to reserve all this excess water that you squeeze out because it's very flavorful. And then you want to have about 1/2 cup of liquid left, which is exactly what I have. And now we're cutting away the stems, which you don't need, so you can save the stems and add them to stalks. And now we're just going to thinly slice the shiitake mushrooms. So the next thing that we need to prep is shredding our ginger. When you're choosing ginger, you want to get heavy pieces that have smooth skin, absolutely no wrinkling. We're going to use about 2 tablespoons of ginger. Snap off this piece. And Mama always taught me to remove the skin. And the easiest way is to use a little teaspoon. We are going to slice this ginger into fine shreds. I make paper thin slices and then stack the slices and make your fine shreds. So the last thing that we have to prep is to finely shred 1 scallion. And I'm going to teach this wonderful trick. There is this wonderful gadget called a negi cutter. And you get these wonderful shreds. And everyone thinks that you have the most incredible knife skills in the world. This is 8 ounces of skinless, boneless chicken breasts. So you're just making 1/4 inch thick slices, bite-sized slices, and you want them to be as even as possible. So now we're ready to marinate the chicken. I have my 8 ounces of sliced chicken here. You just add all your ingredients. So here's my 2 tablespoons of ginger, 1 egg white, a little rice wine. I have 2 kinds of soy sauce, dark and regular, 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, a little salt, 1/4 teaspoon of ground white pepper. We're just going to combine all this until you no longer see the cornstarch. You add 1 teaspoon of cooking oil. So the last thing that we have to prep, which I almost forgot, is the ham. And traditionally it would have been Yunnan ham, but you can use any cooked ham, just very, very thinly sliced. So I want 1 1/3 cups long grain rice. When you wash rice, you always use cold water and just swish it around. And then drain it. And you want to do this several times just until the water runs clear. As you can see, I've drained all the water from the rice and leveled it. And now you can either add water or chicken broth. So today I'm going to add chicken broth because I want to make this extra special for you. And then we just cover it. So this is actually, I haven't talked about this. This is a sand pot. Sand pots are very, very special. Old-fashioned Cantonese cooks say that the best rice is cooked in a sand pot because it's said to have rice breath. And when you work with a sand pot, you always have to start on low heat. If you were to set it on high heat immediately, the sand pot would crack. So we've just completed 5 minutes on low heat, and I'm just going to increase the heat to medium. And we're just going to let that go for about 3 to 5 minutes. And I can actually see some tiny bubbles on the edge of the sand pot. And so, yep. So I'm going to increase the heat now to high and just let that go until most of the liquid has evaporated. So this is about it. Right now, as you can see, you're getting little craters in the rice and almost all the liquid has evaporated. So I'm going to cover it and reduce it to low and actually move it to another burner. And now we're ready to fire up the wok. This is a 14-inch flat bottom carbon steel wok, and whenever you stir fry, you always need to preheat the wok. So I have this little dish of water, and I just flick a drop of water into the wok, and when it evaporates within 1 second, we're ready to go. And so now I have 1 tablespoon of peanut oil here. So I always swirl it in and then I roll the oil around to make sure the bottom is completely coated. And now I'm adding all the chicken. And this is the most unusual step. What you want to do is wait 1 minute before you start to stir fry. And the reason is, if you were stir frying in Hong Kong or China, you would immediately start stir frying. But in America, most Western residential stoves are not as hot as stoves in China. So we're letting it just go for 1 minute, allow the chicken to begin to sear. So there's no sticking. And I'm going to add all of my mushrooms and stir fry for 1 minute. So what I'm looking for is for the chicken to be seared on the outside, but not to be cooked through. And finally, this is the mushroom soaking liquid that I saved, and we swirl it along the edge of the wok. All right, and now we're ready to transfer it to the sand pot. All right, so the rice is cooked for 10 minutes on low heat, and now I'm setting it on this rack because you can never put a sand pot on a cold surface, a hot sand pot. So the change in temperature would disturb the sand pot and the sand pot could possibly crack. And so now I'm going to bring my stir fry over, uncover it, and add all of the stir fry, sprinkle my scallions, and then recover it. So it's been 5 minutes. Oh my God, look at that aroma. And so the last thing we're going to do is just sprinkle on the ham. And the genius of this recipe is that the heat from the rice cooks the chicken. And so the chicken never is overcooked. And the juices from the chicken melt into the rice. So what's not to like? This is the famous Mama and Baba sand pot chicken and rice.
To help drive HMH's vital agenda going forward, now ask that you please pledge a donation to the organization simply by sending a text. Guiding us through this experience will be Isabel, along with Jan Lee, a longtime HMH board leader and the son of June Lee, who served on HMH's board with distinction for many years and founded this beloved event. Jan is also a deeply committed advocate on behalf of Chinatown.
Good evening. Jan and I would love to welcome our guests tonight. Thank you for joining us. And during this segment, as you can see, the amount is at $7,445, and we have a goal of $25,000.
We do.
So I would like to just say that this dinner is in honor of your mother, June Lee, who actually has been on the board for over 30 years, and now Jan, you are one of our board of directors. Can you say a little bit?
June, my mother, was on the board of directors for over 3 decades, and I'm very proud to follow in her footsteps. I've been on the board for a little bit more than a decade myself, and I'm one of actually a few second-generation Hamilton-Madison House board members. And you know, Isabel, that really speaks to the legacy and the longevity of Hamilton-Madison House and the devotion that our board members have to making sure that Hamilton-Madison House continues to do the great programming that you saw this evening.
So tonight we have a challenge.
Yeah.
We have a challenge. We have to raise $25,000, as you can see, and I know many of you are already taking out your credit cards. So just we'll see who's going to be the first to come up. So I don't know people who are very competitive here, but I do want to say one of our board members, Tom Hill, has made a challenge, and that challenge is that he's going to put up $2,500
Yes, he is.
to match. And we're hoping that we can get that to double your money tonight. And if people would be willing to put up, I guess there's a donate button on that corner.
The upper right side of this screen. So you hit that donate button and we'll see your donation. We need to match Tom Hill's $2,500 generous donation. So thank you so much, Tom. But you know, Isabel, as we have had this program going this evening, we've already gotten some donations that
Yes, we did.
And you know, we should take this time now to read some of them. For instance, AAA Northeast has donated, so thank you, AAA.
And Capital One has also made a donation, and thank you.
Chinatown Manpower, one of our local organizations. Thank you, Chinatown Manpower, so much.
And UA3, our honoree tonight. Thank you, Don, so much.
Absolutely, and we want to acknowledge Joan Karn. Thank you, Joan, our board member from Hamilton-Madison House.
And Tom Hill, who also made that match, made an additional donation to Hamilton-Madison House. Thank you, Tom, our board of directors.
And Lillian Leong, thank you, Lillian.
And Two Bridges Neighborhood Council, Victor Papa. Thank you,
Victor Papa, we see you. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Victor, again. And Winnie Lam Kim.
Yes, Winnie, thank you so much from the board of directors. And you know, I just noticed I match my background so well with this shirt. Did you notice my shirt?
I know, that's really interesting. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
You know, my mother immigrated from Indonesia, from Lombok, Indonesia, and my relatives are in town, and they brought this shirt specifically for this event. This is a hand-painted shirt from Indonesia.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, I wore it in honor of my mother, so thank you to my family from Indonesia. Appreciate it so much.
And to her heritage, right?
Absolutely. It's part of my family's heritage.
Yeah, so I think it's important to stress that how Hamilton-Madison House helps families and who come to America to acclimate. So this is one of the things that we do at Hamilton-Madison House.
For 100 years, we've been a gateway to many, many immigrants, and we continue to be that for so many more people. But with your help, we'll continue to have wonderful programming and be that very important bridge that we need in our immigrant communities.
Oh, look, I just want to say it's 10,725. Thank you, Karen.
And thank you, Janet. Thank you, Janet. That was so wonderful. You know, we're still getting donations that have been coming in since we even started this program. I want to say thank you to Bruce Lulla, all the way from East Hampton, New York. Thank you, Bruce.
And Chi Chu, our former board of directors from Ducati. Thank you.
And Chung Yu, thank you, Chung.
And Debbie Chan. Thank you, Debbie, for always continuing to support Hamilton-Madison House and our mental health clinics.
Abacus Bank, a local bank right here in Chinatown. Thank you to the Song family from Abacus Bank. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much. And also Jeffrey Weiner.
Jeffrey is one of the second-generation board members on Hamilton-Madison House, so we have a few of them.
And his father was one of the head worker at Hamilton-Madison House.
Absolutely. We have a donation from Con Edison, so thank you, Con Edison.
And we also have Jamie Love from CAM Society. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Sure. Patricia Peretz.
I was just going to say now it's 10,975. And thank you, Danny. I see. Thank you so much for that donation.
Thank you.
We're gonna get. I see. Oh, it's 11,000.
Yep.
Great. Thank you so much again. And where are we left? Oh, you said Jill Sung, Abacus Bank.
Yes, and
Con Edison.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Paul Mack. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul, from Brooklyn Chinese American Association. Always a supporter of Hamilton-Madison House. And we have Asian American Federation of New York. Thank you so much, Joanne. And you and your board of directors have always been the heroes of representing the Pan-Asian of New York City and fighting for anti-Asian violence and bringing it out there in the very beginning. So thank you very much, Asian American Federation.
And thank you, Sophia, and thank you, Deb Thompson. I just saw you there to make a donation. We appreciate that so much.
Wow, we're getting close, but keep rolling that money in. Just keep rolling it in.
What's easier than hitting a button? So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. And I want to say Ken Eisner also made a donation. Thank you, Ken, so much. Always count on you to be our treasurer and making us transparent and making our books clean. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I want to say thank you to the members of SPONY, Small Property Owners of New York, who are here with us tonight, Ann Korchak, Chris Athenaeus, Joanna Wong, Howard Chin. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate having your support. Small property owners are what hold the downtown area and the 5 boroughs together. So thank you for making your presence known, and thank you for your contributions.
Oh, there's Richard, who's our staff. Bonnie, thank you. 15,250.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ron and Freddie Norris.
I think we made our mark. We matched what Tom Hill wanted us to do. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We have a goal of 25,000 for this evening, so we're still on the way there. Thank you so much for making us go into that direction. We really appreciate it.
And I do want to say, New York Presbyterian, thank you for our partnership for many years. And
a friend of ours for a long time, Annette Rose Shapiro. Thank you, Annette. And Richard, thank you, Annette and Robert.
And we have Mutual of America always coming. And don't forget, I know that Mutual of America is always one of our other supporter of our golf events. So it's August 2nd. I do want to plug that in, because don't forget, hold that date.
Yeah, and Alan Wang, one of our other property owners from a property owner group, and of course Amy Chin from Think Chinatown, one of the founders of Think Chinatown, one of our honorees. It was so important what was said in that program, that stories matter. So we're making history tonight. This is something that's very unusual for us at Hamilton-Madison House, to have to switch from a huge event, which was 800 people in a room, to doing this virtually with you. So it has been a challenge for everyone that's had to make these changes, but thank you for being here with us. Thank you for helping to make these programs work.
And we also want to thank JMSA, Japanese Medical Society, and JAMSNet also, thank you so much, and JASSE for their donations to Hamilton-Madison House. They've always been a big providing services to Japanese Americans in New York City.
Absolutely. And if you don't know, Hamilton-Madison House provides mental health and behavioral health counseling in the Japanese language that makes us unique on the entire East Coast of America. So you can imagine the need that's out there. We also provide mental health counseling in many, many Asian languages, don't we?
Yes, we do it in Japanese, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, and Cambodian.
And even within the Chinese language, there's many different dialects, so we cover those as well, which makes it so important this time, in the past, and probably in the future as well, Isabel, that we have to be able to provide mental health services for our community in the language that they use, and we just went over $20,000.
I know, and I'm so excited. I mean, there are so many more names, and we may miss some of you, but we definitely will.
Cynthia, thank you, and Howard, thank you so much. Thank you for your donation. It is so meaningful to see these donations coming in live. It's very exciting. I want to say thank you to Amy Lowenstein. You know, thank you for being there for us. Andrew Hertz, of course, Ann Korchak from Spony. Thank you for being here, for supporting and for making your donations, and our other board member, Cal O, of course.
Yes. I do want to just also thank Melissa Gordon. I know, Melissa, you've been with Hamilton-Madison House many years ago, but thank you. She's from Texas and is calling in onto this call. Hi, Melissa. Thank you so much.
We have someone who donated just recently, Olympia Moy and her partner, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. Newlyweds, just got married very recently, so thank you to the Moy family, Olympia and Elizabeth. Thank you.
Okay, we're a little bit shy here on, do my math here, 4,600, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm hoping that we get a few more donations. Okay, we're getting up there. Look, it's 20,500. You think we can push it a little bit more, Jan?
We're getting closer, folks. We just need you to close that gap between up to 25,000. It's wonderful that we're getting there, and we're getting there really quickly thanks to you.
Yeah, and what is this picture of? Oh, I'm sorry, this picture. I'm like looking at it. This is
I can see my house. That's Mott Street. Yeah, this is for those of you who are tuning in from outside of the area, this is historic Mott Street. So, you know, this is the core of Chinatown right here. And Hamilton-Madison House doesn't only serve Mott Street, obviously. We serve a large group of people all over the Lower East Side in the Chinatown community. Again, in languages that they understand, so important. But that takes funding. It takes funding to make these programs happen. It takes funding to keep our staff fully funded. And we want to do more programs. We want to include more things. We want to expand Hamilton-Madison House and perhaps even beyond the borders of Chinatown and the Lower East Side. So this is where your money is going to go. It's going to help us in our long-term plans. Thank you, Ezra, for your donation. Thank you, Cynthia. We can see you making these donations as they come in. Thank you, Amy Chin and James Lowe. That's fantastic.
And I do want to mention that, I don't know if you know, there's a little trivia. Can I test your being on the board?
Okay.
You know? So I'm just going to say, and I think you know the answer.
I hope
Do you
so.
know what year that Hamilton-Madison House started?
It's 120 years. I'm going to say 120 years old. Am I close?
A
little bit over.
Okay. A little bit over. So it's 1898.
1898, and obviously serving many, many different ethnic groups as the downtown area has changed. And so We serve a wide variety of people, and even today, we have a diverse group of people who we serve. So the Lower East Side in Chinatown has changed over the years, but Hamilton-Madison House has changed as well. Thank you, Honoree, for your donation.
And again, one other question. Do you know when we merged? You know, there was two settlement houses that merged.
In the 60s. Am I right? Even earlier?
A little earlier.
A little bit earlier in the 1950s.
Yes,
yeah,
it is actually, because that's when Alfred E. Smith houses was built, and then they had to knock down one of the roads, and then they had to merge. So that's where they decided to put Hamilton and Madison together.
And I know historically we have a very close tie to the very famous and very important Shirley Chisholm.
Yes, she was. She was our first education Head Start director at Hamilton-Madison House in the 1960s. And we're very proud to have that kind of legacy of people who've gone through and worked with Hamilton-Madison House.
And we're all just coming up to 21,000. We so appreciate it. I want to thank Leslie Liang, another small property owner right here in Chinatown. Thank you, Leslie, and his family. Really appreciate that.
Well, I guess you still can make a donation. You can go to our website at www.hamiltonmadisonhouse.org, and we are still accepting donations if you can. And I'm going to say at this time we'll try to move on to the next segment.
Sure, I just want to,
Oh, look, 21,000. Maybe we should stay on.
We made it 21,000. That's fantastic. Thank you, Mei Liang. Grace Young, thank you so much for making a donation this evening. You've donated your time. You've donated your social media campaign for us. We so appreciate it. Mei Liang, thank you.
On our board.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Mei. Thank you so much. Well, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that the extended version of that roundtable discussion will be available in the future on our website. There's a lot more to that show. We wanted to give you the core of what it's about this evening, but there is more stuff that we've talked about. And this entire program is going to be available on Hamilton-Madison House's website. So for those of your friends and family who couldn't make it this evening, we will memorialize this. It'll be on the hamiltonmadisonhouse.org website.
Yes, and we will be sending the link to everyone on the link in our constant contact too. So I do want to move on to, here's a special young lady, and the donation is still going to be live still. Her name is Chloe Lamb.
Chloe, and Chloe started her lessons at 6.
Yes, 6 years old.
And now she's at the ripe old age of 12, but wise beyond her years. And before we hear from Chloe, I want to say also thank you to the Chinatown Community Young Lions, a neighborhood group founded in 1973, and still with us, and traditionally would open our event in person, but we're so happy that you were able to do that for us virtually at that wonderful street fair. So let's
Mariners Temple too.
And Mariners Temple, thank you so much. Mariners Temple Baptist Church for inviting us to your event. And we just saw Jeffrey Weiner, thank you so much. And Joy, thank you, Joy. We're over 21,000 already.
Yeah,
so
we're
thank you
getting
so
very
much.
close, but
let's hear from Chloe.
Yeah, so let's stay tuned. Chloe will have a few words to say.
Hi, my name is Chloe Lamb, and I have been learning piano from Hamilton-Madison House Music School for 6 years. I enjoyed learning so much from my teacher. Even in the pandemic, I can still continue to learn virtually. Please support Hamilton-Madison House so more people can afford music lessons. Thank you so much, Hamilton-Madison House.
That's a hard act to follow.
She is. She is so adorable, Chloe. Thank you, Chloe. And she's still taking those virtual classes. She doesn't stop.
You know, I wanted to take this time, Isabel, to thank Sifan Kim, ABC 7 News, Eyewitness News, Channel 7. Sifan, congratulations. You're a correspondent. So we're so proud of the work that you've been doing. And of course, we want to thank Grace Young again for being there for us and for doing that, doing that wonderful cooking segment. And for videographer Dan On for being there at the last minute. You know, we so enjoyed your cooking segment and how beautifully it was filmed and edited. So thank you, Dan.
And I think I'm going to have to go and get that sand pot.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
gotta try that out.
Everyone's going to be a mad rush to KK Discount now in Chinatown and buy those sand pots. Yeah.
Very importantly, I've never really cooked in a sand pot, but I think interestingly.
Now you know how.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
always, if you know someone who can do it, make it so simple and delicious like her. So thank you again. And I do want to say, most importantly, I have someone next to me who actually is the board chair of our development committee. I do want to thank the Junli committee who's helped with organizing this event. And Jan, you're the chair, so thank you very much. This has been really a successful event.
Well, of course, it's a team effort, and I want to acknowledge Sunny's son and Sharon Chow and Tim. Thank you so much for your donations. But, you know, it takes a team effort. Everyone from Deb Thompson to Yoshio Kano to Winnie Leung Kim, Stanley Tran, Danny Rosenthal, of course, Debbie Lowenstein, Vivian Leung-Harrell, and Alex Bardinas. Thank you so much for our team. It took a lot of work to put this together, and I know it doesn't look like it when you see it on screen, but there was a lot of background work and a lot of really great teamwork to pull this together, and a great network of people.
Mm-hmm. And without closing tonight, I do want to say a big appreciation to our HMH Board of Directors and to the Hamilton-Madison House staff, and to the volunteers, the sponsors, the donors, and the supporters. We can't do what we do today because without you, we couldn't meet our mission. So thank you so much for your continued support and commitment and your hard work.
I think that concludes it for the evening. Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Dan.
And thank you for all of the viewers out there, and thank you for making this evening so wonderful. We've raised over $20,000 plus more here that we've gotten during your time of the program. So thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. Look forward to more programming from Hamilton-Madison House, from our educational programming and a golf outing.
Yes, thank you for reminding me, yes. And of course, our golf outing, which everyone has a good time. It's August 2nd this year. It is live.
This one's in person, so bring your golf clubs, real
Cigars.
food, real drinks, real golf carts.
And seafood.
And seafood, and a really, really important, great time, all going to a great cause. We want to thank all the participants that are doing the golf outing in the past, but keep visiting the Hamilton-Madison House website. Give us your name. We'll keep you up to date, but thank you so much for being here this evening. You've made it a wonderful evening for us.
Thank you so much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.